Aired live on our local cable television station, QAC TV7. These media broadcasts provide county citizens an opportunity to watch and review our scheduled public sessions. To comply with the governor's proclamation declaring a state of emergency in Maryland, to minimize the person-to-person spread of COVID-19, we suggest that citizens stay home and watch the commissioners' meeting live on our QAC website at www.qac.org/live or on QAC TV's television channel, Atlantic Broadband Channel 7 or 77. To maintain social distancing, seating will be limited to accommodate social distancing guidelines. We are screening all meeting participants prior to entering the building. If you have any respiratory symptoms such as fever, cough, shortness of breath, please refrain from attending the meeting and notify a healthcare provider. We acknowledge your participation, and by attending, you acknowledge that this session is both recorded and aired. The scheduled agenda is available outside of this meeting room on the information table. Press and public comment will be taken and is limited to 3 minutes per person. If you care to speak, you must sign the sheet on the information table outside. Comments longer than 3 minutes can be submitted in writing for the commissioner's review. During the meeting, we would ask that you turn off all electronic devices and hold personal conversations outside of our meeting room. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission President Jim Moran.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we can remain standing for a moment of silence. Last week, Queen Anne's County lost a father, husband, and business owner. Richard Brushka passed away, and I'd like a moment of silence for him and his family. Thank you very much.
All right, commissioners, we just had a closed session under section 3-305B7 of the general provisions article to consult with counsel, and under section 305B1 to discuss boards and commissions. So next we have the approval of tonight's agenda. The agenda for today's meeting, August 11th, 2020, and the regular and closed session minutes from your July 28th meeting and the minutes from your July 14th Sanitary Commission meeting were distributed electronically for review. Are there any additions or corrections?
We have one correction to our, I guess, do we have to make a new motion also with this, or just a correction?
Just as amended.
You're going to amend the minutes, yeah.
Just amended.
We're going to amend the minutes. We were appointed, this is for the Planning Commission. We made 2 appointments at our last meeting, and we had the years of those appointments incorrect. We had them both at 4 years, and they weren't. They're both to finish out existing terms. So Arthur Ebischberger to fill the remaining unexpired term on the Planning Commission to begin immediately and end December 31st, 2022. And Kathy Diotis to fill the remaining unexpired term on the Planning Commission to begin immediately and end December 31st, 2020.
Well, we're going to, and then in addition to that, add desk item 12 to the agenda. So I will make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as amended and the agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, commissioners. That brings us to our first press and public comments period. So thank you for taking the time to express your views to the county commissioners during this public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in length per person. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. When you come forward, please speak clearly in the standing microphone. State your name, address, and topic of interest. Keeping with the dignity of the office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner. This commission respects your desire and right to convey your message freely. We ask as a courtesy to the board and our citizens that you respect the commissioner's request and refrain from naming citizens and name calling when offering any critique. So, anybody sign up?
No one signed up to speak, and there's no one in the room, so moving on.
All right, commissioners, we can flip over to tab number 2. We have Department of Public Works here this evening for their monthly updates. Alan Quimby, the Director of Public Works, and we have Director of Animal Services, Ramon Villatoro, for the update on animal services. I think he's going to go first. So, Good to see you both.
Afternoon.
I'm here to discuss the shelter operations, but first, I'd like to thank Todd Mon and Steve Wilson and the rest of the commissioners. I want to express my gratitude on behalf of our staff and the animals. Thank you for taking the animal services contract. So. Now, these numbers are for shelter operations based from March 7th, 2020. Today, we've had 442 animals enter our shelter. We've had 280 adoptions, 60 animals reunited with their families, and 24 animals transferred to other animal welfare organizations. We have euthanized 16 animals due to medical reasons. To be classified as a no-kill animal shelter, you must maintain about a 90% live release rate. And currently, we're holding a 96% live release rate. So we're really proud of maintaining that number.
Just a quick question, if I can interrupt.
Sure.
The 16 that were euthanized, you said for medical reasons. Could you just, for the
Elaborate?
TV audience,
Sure.
just examples of what would be a medical reason?
So we take in, right now it's considered the kitten season, so we take in a lot of unweaned orphan kittens that sometimes just do not thrive without their mother. So despite, all our best efforts, despite the foster parents' efforts, sometimes they just fail to thrive, and we have to do what's best for their, quality of life. And we also have many, since we are the open admission shelter, we can't turn animals away. So we take in, many sick animals. And of course, we exhaust all options medically, within our power. But we always look at what's in the best interest of the animal. And if prolonging their suffering, we make the decision to euthanize.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So COVID-19 brought many challenges to our shelter. We wanted to house as many of our dogs in foster during the pandemic. Today, we have sent 200 animals into our foster program. We are continuing to push for more foster care recruitment, especially for our Doggy Day adventure program. And this program is designed for the public to come in, take a shelter dog for a short period of time. It could be a day, a weekend, overnight. And what they usually do is they go on a car ride, they go to a park, a hike, and we've seen a lot of great benefits from this program. Many of our animals, we don't have as much information, how they would do in a car drive, how they would do in a home setting. So this program allows us to provide valuable information to our adopters, as well as kind of give them a break from the stressors of the kennel environment. So we're focusing on recruiting for this program. Our adoption rates have continued to rise during the past few months, especially surprisingly during the pandemic. We didn't know what to expect, but we've seen great success in our adoption program. Last year, our average length of stay for our animals, cats and dogs, was around 18 to 24 days. This year, it's around 10 to 14 days, and that's all due to how quickly we're adopting and matching them up with their homes. We also had a great adoption success in May when for the first time, we emptied out our dog kennel, and this was due to every dog finding a forever home.
How many dogs was that?
It was around 10.
Gotcha.
Dog, yeah. So it was short-lived. We had an empty kennel for about a weekend, and then we filled up again. So our shelter veterinarian, Dr. Caitlin Neal, has performed over 251 surgeries to date, and this includes spay-neuter, dental procedures, mass removals. Our animal care team has administered over 1,300 vaccinations to ensure high standards of care for the animals. So we continue to kind of step our game up and make sure that our animals are physically, well. Recently, we received an estate donation of $91,000, and this will go towards our operating budget, medical expenses, and will also go towards improving the quality of life for the animals under our care. We have also been awarded a grant of 35 cat portals, which is the value is around $3,000. And the portals are used to expand single cat cages into 2 by installing this portal on the kennel wall. And by opening that space for our cats, will significantly improve the quality of care for them by reducing illness and stress. That is all I wanted to report. I just wanted to kind of give you a brief, update on our numbers, how many animals we had in, and kind of a focus on what we were looking towards the future. But I want to thank you for having me here, and if you have any questions.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. So,
We're very pleased to take you into the family of departments, and you've done a great job so far, and I think the county is very pleased with the level of care, and we may want to start a commission or a committee to oversee any euthanizations, but so far so good, and thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ramon. Good to see you.
Thanks.
We'll be bringing him in quarterly from now on, just to give you an update on what he's up to.
Okay, Commissioners, next item is item number 2 on page 3, Department of Emergency Services Storage Building procurement that we're working on. Is that Alan?
Commissioners, we were asked to build a building in order to store quite a volume of PPE we've been receiving over since the COVID started in March. Right now it's stored all over the county and wherever we can find a place to put it. We tried to rent some warehouse space, but it was fairly expensive, like $50,000 a year for 6,000 square feet, and we would probably use every bit of the 6,000 square feet. DES also had a need for storing emergency shelter supplies. Right now they're renting storage from Y Mills, Clow and Y Mills, so it makes sense to build a building. Todd was able to secure permission that the CARES Act would pay for the building, the condition being that we had to have it built and invoiced by the end of this calendar year. So we went out to bid with a short procurement schedule. We reached out to the 4 people who we've had experience with building warehouses, and they turned around the price. So you see the 3 prices, with Clow Ventures being the low bid at $494,600. The building's 11,400 square feet, insulated, 8 garage doors. So again, the funding source will be the federal CARES money.
I move to award the bid of construction of 11,400 square feet Department of Emergency Services storage building in the amount of $494,600 to Cloud Ventures utilizing CARES federal money for its construction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Interesting that these bids are pretty close together. I mean, when you're talking about this kind of dollar amount, I mean,
Well, it's a fairly plain Jane building.
right. And that's, I was going to draw that conclusion that, I mean, it's basically a frame with lots of floor space
Correct.
for storage, so. Good.
How tall is it?
How tall is it? I think the interior are 14 foot.
Wow.
I believe.
Okay.
I know the doors are 12 foot, so it has to be a little bit bigger.
And we have that much stuff.
We're going to buy a whole lot more through the health department. This is going to be using actually the Part A component of the allotment that we got through the health department, and they're going to procure additional PPE for the next year or so. So we have it on hand for the future.
I mean, what all is, I mean, I'd like to see an inventory of what's going in there.
Sure.
Down the road. I'm just
Yeah, sure,
curious. It's not nothing
absolutely. We can give you that.
I mean, how many,
Hand
masks do we
sanitizer,
have,
masks,
gowns do we have that-
goggles. Yeah.
when you're 14 feet, I mean, you put racks in there and you've got a lot of storage. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, be that as it may, we are moving to award the bid of construction of 11,400 square foot Department of Emergency Services storage building in the amount of $494,600 to Cloud Ventures utilizing CARES federal money for its construction. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 3 on page 5 is the proposed grant agreement for the Shine Like Stars, and here comes Mr. Dave McGlashan. He prepared this one. So,
Looks like you got a little dirt.
Yes. Thanks for noticing.
I'm sorry, you can't ever come in here if I'm a commissioner.
I appreciate
and
that.
not get a shot across the bow.
All right, so that being said, that's a desktop item. Do we have someone that wants to make a motion?
I move to execute the grant agreement with Miss Ryan of Shine Like Stars Preschool LLC in the amount of $25,000.
Second?
Hold on, he's not done.
Yeah.
So we've modified one of the provisions of here from 7 days to make it give an actual date certain, so there's avoid confusion. So that as part of what she needs to do is this is for the public at home. This was part of the county getting Christ Church out of the county's hands and over to the Friends of Christ Church. The daycare center, Shine Like Stars, was operating in there, so as part of moving this over to a historic building and getting the business operating out of it, there was this grant that was used to help the Shine Like Stars with its new location. And so as part of this condition, she has to vacate her possessions by August 21st out of the Christ Church location, and she has to complete the improvements and constructions for the new location within 6 months. And there is a payback if she doesn't stay in continuous operation for 5 years. Childcare is obviously a huge issue right now with COVID, so being able to save one of our childcare facilities is a huge deal for a lot of working parents.
Jim, point of order, I think you got to actually, as the motion was made, as the contract is written now, then you're going to have to take that and then take a motion to amend it and second it and vote on that before you can actually take the original vote, I believe.
I don't know, because if his motion,
He would have to read the amendment into the motion as one.
well, that's, I mean, you wanna, do you have an actual sentence there that you're gonna read into that, or is that a?
Here, I'll read
Now
it.
you got to do them separately.
Or we'll let you start over with your motion.
All right. I move to execute the grant agreement with Miss Ryan of Shine Like Stars Preschool LLC in the amount of $25,000 with
An amended term, or an
and
amended date
amend
of.
paragraph 3 to state the grantee shall vacate its current location in the old Christ Church building, Main Street, Stevensville, Maryland, by the 21st of August, and the grantee shall complete the improvements and construction of the premises within 6 months of the date hereof, or forego this grant. Grantee shall thereafter operate a preschool program on the premises for a continuous period of 5 years.
Or forego.
I had to forego it there.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna get a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a
I want to hear
second.
you reread that.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Now, what are you over there dropping?
But I think
The peanut guy. He
let the
can't-
record show that,
Right.
that Commissioner Jack Wilson abstained from the previous vote.
He was a no on the previous
I was
vote,
noticed, so
so
I can't vote on this one.
you can't vote on this one. That means you can't.
I was just trying to get the Robert's Rule stuff straight.
I hear you,
That's all.
guys. Okay, very good.
Procedural, that was
I
procedural.
know it is, you know.
I know you don't get
You should have reminded me about that guy at the
All
end.
procedural.
You're done.
Thank
All
you,
you have to do is
Commissioners.
back the U-Haul van up and get busy.
Yes, sir.
Why not? Saturday, Sunday, you know, it's fine. Thank you. See you, Dave. Okay.
All right, next up, we have on page number 4, item 20. And this is actually we have to convene a sanitary commission on this one. So can we
I
convene
make a
as-
motion that we convene as the Sanitary Commission.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. There we go.
Okay, item 4 on page 20, comprehensive solid waste plan text amendment. So, Shane,
Want me to make this motion?
you can make the motion if you want. first.
Okay, I move to execute the resolution for the comprehensive solid waste plan text amendment and the letter to MDE stating the text amendment was adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? The only question I had, do we have any buildings that this is even going to apply to?
Not even near this close, no.
Okay.
150,000 square feet, I believe. The largest is less than 10,000 square feet in the county
Right.
right now.
Good. Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we're going to move to execute the resolution for the Comprehensive Solid Waste Plan text amendment and the letter to MDE stating the text amendment was adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 5 on page 24, we have some fiscal year 21 trucks for the construction division of the Sanitary Commission, or Sanitary District. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I move to purchase a 1-ton four-wheel drive, 1-ton truck with utility body and snowplow for construction division from Apple Ford via the Montgomery County contract in the aggregate amount not to exceed $75,000.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 6 on page 26, Fisherman's Village Hotel Public Works Agreement.
I move to execute the Public Works Agreement with Kent Narrows Enterprise LLC to allow for the construction of a 120-room hotel.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? And I believe this is just an amendment, just because they had an original agreement, they just
Correct. The
changed up
original
some things.
agreement was a 99-room hotel, and the
Right.
floor area is a little different.
Very good. Okay. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 7 is, we have an informational meeting tonight. Item 7 on page 29 is for a comprehensive water sewer plan amendment for the Wheatlands. This is an informational meeting. The hearing will be in 2 weeks. And we have Joe Stevens here representing the applicant, and Mr. Waterman, the applicant. So you guys can come up to the table, sure.
Well, Alan, why don't we start with you? Just for the public, because, everybody who's watching this now,
Okay.
12 people are going to say, well, Wheatlands, that's in Queenstown.
Exactly.
Why is the county discussing this? So if you give a little background there.
As you noted, the Wheatlands property is within the incorporated limits of the town of Queenstown. However, the county maintains the sewer and water plan for the entire county, including the incorporated towns. If you recall, when Barclay wanted to annex some lands, then they had to amend their plan. Anytime a incorporated town wants to increase their discharge permit, the county has to amend its plan. So the county maintains the plan for all jurisdictions in the county. So that's why we're involved, and pretty much the only involvement we have.
Huh. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. You,
Did you want me up here or?
sure. No, you're right here. Yeah.
On, off, either or? Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Joseph Stevens, and it's nice to see you.
Absolutely.
Instead of being on TV, it's nice to be here. Thank you very much. I'll be brief. This is your informational meeting on the hearing that's going to come up in a couple of weeks, and it's your opportunity to ask questions if you have any questions of us. I represent Waterman Family Limited Partnership, who owns Wheatlands Farm. Barry Waterman is principal with that partnership. He's here to answer questions you might have. Wheatlands is located in the town of Queenstown. It's immediately south of Route 50. Right across the road from the outlets. It's about 140 acres in size. It has, it abuts the headwaters of the Wye River, but that entire area, about 65 acres, is all under conservation easement that abuts the water. This amendment does not include that area that's under conservation easement. Queenstown has planned, as well as the county in their joint 1997 plan, to have this property annexed, have it developed with mixed-use commercial, mixed-use residential development. That was in the 97 plan. Then again in the Queenstown 2010 plan, reaffirmed in the 2017 plan, and it's been amended and reaffirming it again. The county has it to be annexed and to be part of Queenstown growth area in the 2002 and the county's 2010 plan. So all the plans have called for it to be in. Since that time in 2011, the county identified in its comprehensive water and sewer plan the Wheatlands Farm as S3W3. That's planning for water and sewer service within 4 to 10 years. So that was in 2011. Here we are in 2020. It's right in the time frame that your plan called for it, as well as the county, as well as the town's plan. The property was annexed in 2014. It's zoned planned regional commercial, mixed-use zoning district. Mr. Waterman has taken the plan through concept approval at the Town Planning Commission. The information we provided you are the findings of that approval. We also provided you a letter from the town commissioners requesting that it be amended into the master water and sewer plan, and that they support such an amendment, and that there is capacity for such a project in their facilities, and that the developer is responsible for the cost of that, and so on and so forth. Finally, I'll just they also found, as required by your plan, that the property the development is consistent with the comprehensive plan for the town, and they made that finding and put that in a letter to you as well. What we're requesting and what we will request in 2 weeks is that it be upgraded to S2W2. That means then Mr. Waterman will be able to go through, acquire allocation. He'll be able to do his planning and design, engineering and design, final master planning, and then proceed with construction. You will not see it again after it goes to S2W2, because as I understand the plan and the policy is that it's an administrative approval to go to S1W1, which means you then have service. So S2W2 means immediate plan service, so we're very close to getting it. S1W1 means it's there on the property. So we won't be back before you for another amendment. It will be done administratively. So with that, if you have questions, we're here. We're happy to answer them. And otherwise, we'll be before you in 2 weeks.
I'll start. So this is phase one. In phase one, if I'm reading this correctly, phase one is 66,750 gallons per day.
That's correct.
So how many phases is there? And what's the total?
Well, the process is long and convoluted, as you might imagine. So we've gone through concept plan approval, which has a phasing provision. But the next thing we need to do after we go through this is do the master plan approval, and then after that, we would have to do the subdivision approvals, and those would be in phases. So this is pretty much everything that we have. We have 18 acres of land that we don't know what the use will be for. The town commissioners have requested that we reserve it for some future commercial use, which no one knows what that might be at this stage, and that is even muddier in the last 4 or 5 months than it used to be. But we've done that, we've reserved that portion. So that really is the only other phase. So this first phase is everything that we're proposing to do at this time.
Okay. And so the 202 residential units, are they single-family homes, duplexes, townhouses?
The town's zoning ordinance required there to be a certain percentage of different types of uses in the master planned area. So what we have proposed is 79 townhouses, and the rest are single families, with the exception of 14 cottage homes, which are single families, but on a condominium land on little tiny yards. The idea that this development has is that we looked at Queenstown and we looked at what makes Queenstown interesting, what makes most old towns interesting, and the fact is that you have a wide range of architecture, you have a wide range of lot sizes, you have a wide range of housing types and price ranges to meet the entire spectrum of the community, and that's what we tried to accomplish. So the single family lots vary in width, they vary in access, some are from behind, some are in the front. So we've gone through, years of effort with the Queenstown Planning Commission to get to the point of concept approval where everybody's on the same page with what they want to see there.
How about the commercial side? Can you share any of what might be going in there?
There's only 4 pads proposed. There's actually 5. We've been negotiating with State Highway to swap some land that they might want for the old Anderson Stokes property that they bought 20 years ago for the access road that's supposed to go through wheatlands. that they don't want to build now, they want us to build. But anyway, they don't need that parcel, so we've been talking to them about swapping that for a widening strip along Route 50 and some extra ground down at the end near Hickory Ridge. Should they ever want to build an access road there, they'd have the ground to do it and wouldn't have to buy it later. So there may end up being 5 pads there, 3 of which would front on the highway. They'd be some type of highway service. I don't exactly know what.
Okay.
And the interior would be two pads that could handle, maybe a small strip center or hopefully sit-down national chain restaurants. It's a great place for them. The question there is who survives and who's around in a couple years when we're actually to the finish line and ready to go.
And your development's is it going to connect to Route 18?
That's correct. The proposal is to come out on Route 50 directly across from the outlets and then to connect to Route 18. We don't know exactly. State Highway is still trying to determine exactly what they want. There's discussion about many different ways to make those things work. But I think in the end, they're likely to close off the current 18 Route 50 intersection and move it to our access because, as you know, as you come around Route 50 in the woods, you can't see, and if there's 2 people trying to turn on 18, the second one's going to get rear-ended. So, I expect that's all part of that. That'll be part of what we do with State Highway when we come up with that final plan.
Any open space in this playgrounds?
More than half of the property is open space. Plus, there are 2 parks planned inside the community in addition to that. So, again, we're not exactly sure what that will take. The concept plan calls for a walking trail through the 70-acre buffer around the river, a dog park, community and 2 small community parks.
So right now, the farming that goes on there is how close to the river? I mean, what's your farming compared to when you build out? What's the difference going to be in distance?
Well, the difference is pretty substantial. We have made it a little less substantial than it needed to be. 5 years ago, I was farming the property myself, and we were planting within 25 feet of the top of the bank. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we took out the 100-foot buffer and stopped planting that. And then 2 years ago, we took out the 300-foot buffer and planted 5,000 trees on that. Really? Just to give it a head start so we'd have a better visual buffer between whatever we do there and the people in Hickory Ridge who are used to looking at a nice farm and would probably like to still do that for the rest of the time. But anyway, we did that, just try to make everything easier on everybody and to make the whole development environment. But we're going to take 70 acres out of production. So each one of those 70 acres is this corn planted there now. So 200 pounds of nitrogen, 400 pounds of phosphorus and potash on there every year on every acre. Some portion of that runs into the river. Without a development, there's, it runs down ditches, open ditches that some of that's pretty highly erodible ground. So I think one would be hard pressed to say that this development is going to not improve the runoff into the river, if not eliminate the runoff from this property to the river.
I did forget to mention that the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Commission approved growth allocation for this property through the town's growth allocation process back 2 years ago. So they have reviewed the 10% water quality improvement requirements. We did the preliminary conceptual plans for water quality improvement. So that's all part of it. But I think it's important to note that it has growth allocation. It's designated not the buffer, not the 70 acres that Mr. Waterman was speaking to, but the remainder of it has been designated IDA under critical areas.
So, I don't want to go on forever here, but Queenstown upgraded their sewage treatment plant. How many years ago was that? 6, 7, 10?
5 or 6, 7,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
So how much allocation do they have that's available? Do you know?
They have enough for us to get this program going. Their plant is expandable, so so whatever we do there long-term in the future, we can expand the plant to do it. They have ample capacity in their plant today. They do have a problem with groundwater intrusion, so some of that has to be solved before we could do all of what's proposed, but they have ample for us to get going.
And the only reason I bring that up is we're all well aware of there's another municipality in Queen Anne's County that upgraded a sewage treatment plant and is struggling because they can't get users, and they can't get users because people are trying to stop the users. So I'm glad to see this is working out for Queenstown. I know that 5 years ago when you were in here, you met some resistance, to say the least, and you were willing not to put any residential homes in there as an agreement, and that was turned down by that set of commissioners, which is unfortunate. But I'm looking forward to this, and hopefully this will help Queenstown and Queen Anne's County. Kudos to you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Quick question. I'm sorry.
No question.
So break ground to, how many phases did you say, 3?
I suspect in the end that there will be 3 or 4 phases for
Okay.
what we have planned.
Okay.
What we said is phase 1 right now is everything we have planned for the foreseeable future. And then there's 18 acres left for the distant future.
Okay,
Even if everything runs great and we were to get our master plan approved by the end of this year and our the next step by the end of the following year and started construction, I mean, to build the commercial and all of those houses is probably a 15 or 20 year project. I mean, this is not, you don't approve a subdivision and all of a sudden, boom, magically 200 houses appear. This is a long-term project.
Very good. That was going to be my question. Thank you.
Sir, any idea what SHA is going to do about your westbound traffic?
The circulation pattern that we have anticipated for forever is a right on and right off only on Route 50. So the return traffic for anybody going westbound would be down Route 18 and across Nesbitt Road onto Route 50 westbound that way.
Okay.
So that is the only really safe avenue, with the exception of the possibility of a traffic light. State Highway has been adamantly opposed to that up until recently, and they asked us to do a study on that. I don't know where that goes. But that won't change the fact that we still would have a connection to 18. And the reality is that I don't foresee us having anything that I can think of commercially that would go in there that would attract westbound traffic, because every restaurant, everything that I can think of already exists in Easton where westbound traffic would be coming from, or would be coming back from the beach, and when they're on their way home, they don't tend to stop. So I am thinking that those highway pads are going to serve eastbound 50 really only. And people coming home to this development would come down 50 and turn right into the development, and when they go to work, if they have to go to work, they'll be going down over at Nesbitt Road overpass.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good to see you. Is it? Yeah.
I believe that concludes our agenda.
Yeah, I think that's all for Public Works tonight, so thank you, Alan. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, if you want to turn to tab number 3, we have 11 items in the book and 1 desk item. So tab 3, item 1, page 1 is a proclamation, Pillar of the Month for Respect. Could I ask one of you to read that, recite that, please?
Sure, I'll take care of that.
Yeah, look how short it is. Look at you jumping up on that.
Membership has its privileges. Yes. Pillar of the Month for August 2020, Respect, Jack. 20-37, whereas Queen Anne's County was declared a character counts community, and whereas we as citizens will come together and build a strong community based on respect and tolerance of individual differences without prejudice. And whereas the Queen Anne's County Department of Social Services acknowledges worth of other people, including oneself, and whereas the Queen Anne's County Department of Social Services believes that all citizens should treat others as they want to be treated, and whereas the department values all people, respects others' dignity, privacy, and freedom, provides services while being courteous and polite, as well as being tolerant and accepting of differences. And whereas the Queen Anne's County Department of Social Services urges all citizens to make respect a daily part of their lives, now more than ever. Now therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, do hereby designate the Character Counts Pillar of the Month for August to be respect. Signed, the Queen Anne's County Commissioners. There we go.
It's a good one.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners.
You're quite welcome.
Okay, item 2 on page 2 is a letter we had drafted to the Board of Education in support of in-person learning. We had a good work session just prior to this meeting with them.
We're going to hold that.
So we're going to pass on this one tonight?
Yeah, we're going to hold that.
Okay, all right. Moving on then, item 3 on page 4 is a support letter to the State Board of Public Works supporting the modifications and amendments to the leased property under the Kent Narrows Bridge for the Schultz development down there, the former Fisherman's Inn. And I believe this letter was sent out already, so if we can just reaffirm our support there. This was we agreed to this the meeting prior.
Correct. Did we already send this one?
We sent this because they needed that by this morning.
Right.
Board of Public Works.
Okay, so we don't need a motion on that.
Yeah, correct. Okay, Commissioners, if you want to go to item 4 on page 5, this is the semi-annual progress report for the Mattapique Industrial Park grant. Our economic development staff has completed the task of polling all the business owners down there for their staffing changes. So can I get a motion on that, please?
I move to approve and sign this semi-annual progress report as presented for the Community Development Block Grant number ND11ED70 regarding Mattapique Industrial Park, which covers the time period of January 1, 2020 through June 30, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 5 on page 9 is a whole series of easements and deeds of shared parking spaces also for the Fisherman's Village development down there for the new hotel. And this is a memo from Mike Wisnowski, and all these are ready for signature. They've been vetted by our county attorney and our county planning commission attorney. So can I get a motion on that, please?
I move to approve the necessary easements as presented to allow for shared parking, drainage, and pedestrian access to the county trail system in accordance with the conditions of the Fisherman's Village Schultz Development LLC site plan approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Mike. Item number 6 on page 57 is 2 resolutions for property liens for unkept grass, unmanicured grass, nuisance complaints. And these are, I did talk to our zoning administrator about some of these, and these are repeat offenders, and they typically come back,
And they were vacant. She did, Vivian did send that, or actually, I think Margie, you sent that around, and I think everyone on there was a vacant house this last time. So, that answered that question. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I move to approve Resolution 2026 through 2027 to place a lien on each of the proposed listed in the County Zoning Administrator's Memorandum dated August 11, 2020 for nuisance violations.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 7 on page 68, and this is a request to confirm the appointment of community members to the local management board. We have a series of them. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I move to appoint Jessica Denny, Scott Evans, Stephanie Hines, and Lauren K. Weber to the Queen Anne's County Community Partnerships for Children and Families Board to serve a 3-year term ending on June 30th, 2023.
Take that one with it.
Second.
And
We're going to do
then-
them separately?
Sure, we can now.
Yeah, second.
Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
I move to reappoint Laura Roth and Mary Ann Thompson to a second 3-year term ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these appointments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
What a team. What
So
a
moved.
team.
Come on.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Next, we have a series of budget amendments Item 8 on page 70, Budget Amendment CC5, and this is for home delivery of meals and congregate meals. Department of Aging received a Families First Coronavirus Response Grant totaling $31,437 for those activities. Can I get a motion on
I
that?
move to approve budget amendment CC-5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I've got a question. And I don't know, Jonathan, are you out there?
Jonathan was out there.
He's there.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is, this is COVID relief funding,
Yes, this is
which has to be used by this December 31st?
This actually goes through to September 2021, September 30th, 2021. Some of the Department of Aging grants go multiple years.
Okay,
which
that's
is good.
I mean,
which
because,
is a good thing for us.
part of our discussion we had today with the Board of Ed, depending on how long this goes without vaccines or without going back to school, this money sooner or later is going to dry up, and somebody's going to have to backfill it. So, but you're saying this is going, I guess this grant, the money we're setting aside right now, does this fulfill the need all the way through September 30th of 2021?
Well, I think, Jim, this, if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan, didn't we get money that actually supplanted existing money?
We did, yeah. They got it.
So that's what's happening, is we're moving that money over now, because she got a big grant that we had already budgeted money for.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Is that the case, Jonathan?
That's right.
Okay.
So
That's right.
there is additional, and some planning money, a little bit, some of which we used in this budget amendment that we showed you, but there's still money left there that we can use going forward.
But it's, before we had to use everything by December 31st of 2020, we're being told now these will go till September of 2021?
These are DOA grants.
For this money, yeah, for this particular grant,
Okay.
it's different than the CARES requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, the original Part A, Part B grant was to be spent by the end of this
Right.
calendar year, and this is
Okay.
a separate grant for
She
this.
got like,
That's fine.
like 300, I think it was like 300 some thousand, right? Wasn't it close to that or something like that? Yeah.
Okay. All right, the motion is to approve CC-5. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 9 on page 71, Budget Amendment CC6. This amendment is to decrease the tourism advertising grant budget by $12,848 to reflect the grant that was awarded for that. So it's just an adjustment.
I move to approve budget amendment CC-6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 10, Budget Amendment CC7 on page 72. This is our big grant for the Rural Legacy Program for grants to purchase 3 easements as listed here in the on the budget amendment. I think it totals over almost $1.2 million for these particular easements. And Donna Landis Smith was in a few weeks ago and reviewed these with us, so this is a good thing for the county.
I move to approve budget amendment CC7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. And our last budget amendment tonight, Budget Amendment CC8 on page 73. This is another CARES Act grant that recognizes an award that for grant number CV18 provided to by the Maryland Department of Housing for emergency rental assistance and for quarantine sheltering. That goes
I
to
move to
Mike
approve
Clark.
budget amendment CC-8.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item?
So this one's going through the LMB? Is this, Mike, this goes through Mike's?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second on CC-8. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. We have one desk item, and that is a letter to the Weinberg grant members asking for support for the Homes of Hope building project that's being undertaken by Haven Ministries. It's down in Stevensville, Main Street, Stevensville. We supported that project as well with some dollars allocations.
I move to approve the Haven Ministries letters of Weinberg grant members.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, that's all the action items we had for this evening. We can move into our presentations at this time. First, we have our 2011 Comprehensive Water and Sewerage. Oops, excuse me. No, we did that already. I think we're up with Amy here. Yes, Amy Mordock, our principal planner, is here. Department of Planning and Zoning, and Lauren Good from Wallace Montgomery. We have our comprehensive plan update. So Lauren, come on in. Amy, good to see you.
You two can have a seat now. So I'm happy to introduce Lauren Good and Nate Morbeck from Wallace Montgomery Associates. And now, they're not the right stranger. Now, hand the floor over to them for their first update to you on the plan.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide you with this status update for the 2021 Comprehensive Plan. We are going to begin with an introduction of our team, followed by a brief review of the county's existing plans, and provide a status update for the 2021 plan. Wallace Montgomery is a multidisciplinary planning and engineering firm that is headquartered in Hunt Valley, Maryland. We also have 4 additional offices in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Delaware, which is where I'm located. I will be leading this planning effort for Wallace Montgomery and overseeing the staff we have assigned to work on the project, in addition to the sub-consultants that were selected for the project. Ray Morbeck, who is one of Wallace's vice presidents, will be providing QA/QC for the project overall, as well as participating in public outreach events and other efforts as needed. Our team also includes Remline, which is a public outreach and digital media firm who will assist in those outreach efforts, the project website and document design, as well as Heritage Strategies, which is a planning firm that specializes in historic communities and cultural landscapes. Shifting gears, the county's existing comprehensive plan was adopted almost 10 years ago. Its overall vision was originally drafted by the county commissioners, and it was modified based on community input that was received during that planning process. That plan's vision emphasizes maintaining and enhancing the county's character while recognizing that it is a quintessentially rural community and preserving it as a great place to live, being predominantly rural with small towns connected by creeks and county roads through fields and forests, a good place to work, encouraging agriculture, seafood and maritime industries, tourism and outdoor sports, small businesses, and high-tech enterprises. It's a good neighbor for the Bay and other Eastern Shore counties, and as a faithful steward of its natural and cultural heritage. It's a community that protects the expectations and opportunities of all of its citizens, and where development does not impair the quality of life enjoyed by all. And last but not least, it's a county that supports the highest quality of education that seeks to fully prepare its citizens for the future. This plan strengthened the county's longstanding guiding principles, its growth management policies, and recommendations that had been outlined since 1987 to create sustainable communities that are consistent with the 2030 vision for the county and the state's smart growth goals and objectives. In addition to the 2010 comprehensive plan, additional work was completed to develop 3 different community plans for communities within the county. The Chester-Stevensville Community Plan was adopted in 2007. Its vision was developed by a Citizens Advisory Committee and noted that it was to be a planning area that provides families of all income levels are able to obtain secure, affordable housing, maintain decent employment, have useful and safe transportation modes, select from a variety of community parks, recreation, and educational opportunities, and maintain the environmental health of their neighborhoods. This plan included a number of specific recommendations to implement this vision. The second community plan was created for Grasonville in 2010. Its intent was to put forth a strategy for responsible growth that recognized the character of the area and the needs of its citizens now and in the future. Its underlying premise is that with forward-thinking and community involvement, the quality of life for its citizens can be enhanced while accommodating the area's growth and development. This plan also included a number of recommendations meant to address the community planning issues that were identified during that process. And the last community plan was developed for Kent Narrows in 2006. Its vision hoped to establish Kent Narrows as a year-round destination for visitors and local residents while highlighting the heritage of the traditional waterfront character. Again, several recommendations and implementation strategies were developed to address planning issues. So it is our overall intent for this current planning process to incorporate these 3 community plans, update their information, in addition to select issues and recommendations from other plans throughout the county to provide an update to the 2010 comprehensive plan. Wallace Montgomery was brought on board in June of this year to facilitate and develop this plan. In the last 2.5 months, we've been working on several tasks, including holding an internal project kickoff meeting with our key staff and sub-consultants, developing detailed work plans based on the scope provided in our executed contract, updating the initial project schedule, and developing a draft public involvement plan. We've developed a mock-up of our intended project website. We've also reviewed the prior work efforts that were provided to us by the county staff and began determining where there are data and information gaps that we would need to fill in during this process. We began some additional data and GIS resource gathering. We're working on the initial plans, organization, and template deliverables, and we've held staff coordination meetings with county staff. We are holding this status update meeting tonight, and later on this week we will be holding a kickoff meeting with the Planning Commission. And moving forward, we will also be providing you, as well as the Planning Commission, with written status reports of our progress, as well as any major decisions that are made or things like that throughout the length of the project. As mentioned, one of our first tasks involved reviewing some of the prior work efforts that were completed by the previous consultants that began this process. This included working drafts of various data and sections of the plan, working drafts of the 3 community plans updates, reviewing meeting and workshop presentations and minutes that have already occurred as part of this planning effort, reviewing the public survey results, technical committee status updates for the goals, objectives, and recommendations that can be found in the 2010 plan, as well as reviewing comments that the county has received from various organizations such as the Queenstown Planning Commission, the Kent Narrows Development Foundation, and Business Queen Anne's. Our overall work plan includes the 6 tasks, as you can see here, as well as various subtasks. Those 6 overall tasks include project initiation, conditions analysis and input, community assessments, the plan development, the adoption process, as well as project management. While these are all separate tasks, many of them overlap because a lot of the areas are interrelated. We are currently finishing up with task 1 with the meetings this week, as well as finalizing the draft public involvement plan. We're also currently working on task 2, again, collecting data and analyzing existing conditions. Our next steps will include beginning the public engagement process, evaluating the existing vision statements, and assessing various issues and opportunities further. We'll also be developing individual profiles for the 8 incorporated jurisdictions, by no means replacing those communities' comprehensive plans, but providing some basis for working with those towns in this process, as well as developing and incorporating the revised community plans into this plan for the future. These efforts will ultimately result in the plan's development and its future adoption. Meanwhile, the project management and QA/QC efforts have already begun and will be ongoing until the end of the project. As mentioned, we developed a draft public involvement plan that you should have seen in your agenda packets. Public participation is, of course, an important part of the comprehensive planning process, helping to ensure that the plan accurately reflects the vision of the community. It is important to stress that this process is an update to the 2010 plan and not a full rewrite. So the process will look a little different than it did the last time it occurred. The public involvement plan helps us to outline the process that we'll be using and identifies some initial stakeholders and outlines various methods of public outreach. These include public meetings, news releases, and social media, and creating and maintaining a project database in concert with the website that includes contacts for updates and a place to collect and sort public comments. It also includes the overall project website. The initial mock-up of the homepage you can see on the screen here. We have obtained a domain name for the website and it's currently under construction. So of course, as soon as that is complete, we will let the county know so we can begin publicizing that the project website is open where information is available to be reviewed as well as to obtain input moving forward. This plan also outlines our initial project schedule, which an overview is shown on the screen and was provided to you. We anticipate that throughout the entire process, we will hold 11 meetings with the Planning Commission, 6 technical committee meetings, 5 visioning workshops, and 7 special topic workshops. We also intend to hold a joint meeting between the County Commissioners and the Planning Commission, which will publicly present the draft plan and will begin the official public comment period. These efforts will be followed by a public hearing with the Planning Commission, who ultimately recommends approval to this board, and a hearing by yourselves who ultimately adopt the plan. We've included 2 additional meetings in our scope that can be utilized as the county sees fit. These could be additional review sessions as needed by yourselves or the Planning Commission, or another use for them, again, as the county sees fit. Each visioning workshop that we are proposing will have a countywide focus, but because they are also going to be located throughout the county, they will also include exercises related to the communities where they occur. So we will have ones that focus on the 3 community planning areas as well as North County. Each special topic workshop will focus on 1 to 2 content areas of the plan, such as housing or land use. And these workshops will be open to the public, but they will also include representatives from relevant boards, commissions, and stakeholder organizations. We anticipate that this entire project will be completed by November of next year. It's important to note, especially when talking about public outreach, that we are planning all of the public meetings and outreach, keeping in mind any necessary COVID restrictions. And while we hope that all of the meetings will be held in person, we realize that this is a situation that's changing every day, so we may need to plan for virtual meetings of some kind, but we will work with the county to decide what is the best course moving forward. Regardless, all of those meetings, we will again work with the county to publicize those efforts to engage the highest number of citizens possible. With this extended schedule, we are also happy that we'll be able to incorporate updated data from the 2020 census, including population, race, ethnicity, and housing unit counts. This data release should be available by April 1st of next year. So as mentioned, beginning next month, we will provide you with written updates on at least a monthly basis. And at this time, we thank you for this opportunity to provide you this in-person status update and welcome any questions or comments that you may have.
Looking good.
It's a comment we like to hear.
Silence is consent.
Yes.
No doubt it's an arduous task, even if it's just an update of the existing plan, because obviously things change over the last few years, and then obviously the environment we're in now, we don't know what kind of changes we've made to the way that we conduct business or live our lives here in this county, and any of those changes, how many of them are going to be permanent, even after we get our vaccine and COVID is long gone, what the new norm will be. So, but I'm excited about seeing how this process evolves. Obviously, one of the biggest concerns I have, and I know it maybe even my fellow commissioners, is the component of public feedback and sharing, or their ability to share some of their ideas with how, as citizens, they see it. So that'll be an important component, but best of luck to you guys.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Mike or Amy, you want to interject anything, or you're good?
Just to add that the extended schedule will also... The extended schedule will also allow us to take advantage of the housing study that is also currently being updated for the county. So that's also going to be really great data that we can fold into our housing section.
Just a quick question, regarding the census numbers. I mean, do we have a feeling on how that's progressing and the accuracy of these numbers? I mean, is that always just kind of a moving target anyway, whenever you're doing something like this?
The Census Bureau does have information on the response rate that has been received from the county. I don't have that number available off the top of my head, but it's certainly something that I can provide an update on for next month.
Okay. I'm curious just to see how the citizens of Queen Anne's County are doing.
I just saw the top 5, and we're not in it for Maryland.
But we've done pretty well, I think. I think that we're in the 60
The top 5
percentile.
responded. In terms of how many have responded so far, we're not in the top 5. I just saw that on the news somewhere or something. So we've got some work to do.
We're not in the top 5, but we're not doing poorly. I think our percentage is above the state average.
Okay.
I think our percentage was 63%. I think.
That's okay. Well, that's good. I mean,
But if they know what percent we are, what do they need to do a census for?
That's percentage of respondents, though.
Right, but
Of
you must
total,
have...
of how many people. You're right. How do you get that percentage if you don't know how many people there are? That's a good point. I get that.
That's
yeah.
kind of interesting.
Throwing a dart. About 60,000 maybe.
Give or take. Very good. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
All right, thanks. I guess you'll be going to the Planning Commission this month as well for a briefing? On Thursday. Okay, Thursday, good, very good.
Nice.
All right, Commissioners, our next presentation is from the Midshore Behavioral Health. Catherine Dilley, the Executive Director, and her team, I believe, are here. And I don't think we have a PowerPoint for that, but if you turn in your book, tab 6,
Hello.
item 2 is the information they provided for this briefing tonight. How you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming.
My name is Katie Dilley. I'm the Executive Director at Midshore Behavioral Health, and I have the pleasure of being joined this evening with Audra Chevanier. She is your Queen Anne's County representative, behavioral health coordinator, also our child and adolescent behavioral health coordinator specialist. So thank you for having us. So we historically have done this presentation during the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. But of course, as you all know, in response to COVID, we're a little delayed. So, we've made a lot of progress since May, but just as a recognition that typically we like to honor the renewal process for letter of agreement in that month. So, Midshore Behavioral Health, our mission is to continually improve the provision of behavioral health services for the residents of Caroline, Dorchester, Kent, Queen Anne's, Talbot, and Talbot counties through our effective coordination of care and collaboration with our consumers, their natural support systems, providers, and our community at large. And our vision at Midshore Behavioral Health is a rural behavioral health care delivery system that is both clinically and culturally competent, and we ensure access, have a community focus, be cost effective, and be integrated to serve the community as a whole. I have to apologize. We have a typo here on the front sheet of our snapshot. It should read Caroline County under not Caroline County. It should read Queen Anne's County, not Caroline County, under programs that we serve. I apologize. We just 2 weeks ago did our Caroline County presentation, and I failed to update that piece of our presentation, but everything else should be accurate and reflective of the county services. So we like to offer this packet as really a snapshot of all the different services that we oversee on behalf of the Behavioral Health Administration and our representation of serving individuals that are involved in the public behavioral health system to receive services for their either mental health or substance use treatment needs. So we have, as you can see, we have a large scope of subvended activities out of Midshore that we monitor. Audra is going to do sort of more of a snapshot of the Queen Anne's County specific activities and her role and what she's overseeing, as well as a couple of new grants that have come into the region in the last fiscal year that are also serving the county. I think one of the most interesting and certainly one of the largest activities that we monitor that serves the county is our Eastern Shore Crisis Response, which is our crisis response provider that I am pleased to say that during COVID has not stopped serving individuals in person. So we have our 24-hour hotline for our Eastern Shore Operations Center, as well as our mobile crisis teams that come out and meet with individuals in person if they have a mental health crisis. So that has not skipped a beat during our COVID-19 response, and that's one thing that we're very proud of. We also have several support services that have transitioned over from being provided in person to a telehealth platform. So several of our vendors have been able to continue to meet the needs of individuals by way of serving them with telehealth services. So a lot of these services have not stopped. However, they're just kind of looking a little differently in how they're being delivered. I'm going to turn to the second page and get into some of the concrete highlights from fiscal year 20. One of the things that we are very proud to have embarked on this past year is writing our community behavioral health plan in collaboration with all 5 of our local health departments and local addiction authorities. So we had the pleasure of working very closely with Maggie Thomas, who is your local addiction authority director here in the county, with writing the first integrated plan representing 6 entities. So our office at Midshore Behavioral Health serving as the 5 county core service agency, and each of the 5 health departments. We submitted an annual plan that was presented to your local drug and alcohol abuse council, as well as the regional behavioral health advisory committee back in February, and has been accepted and endorsed by the Behavioral Health Administration for our fiscal year 21 activities. One of which is looking at how we can, over the next 3 to 5 years, be working even more collaboratively as a combined systems manager overseeing the behavioral health services and needs of the community as a combined local behavioral health authority. So we're in the very early stages of what that would look like, with having a more formalized integrated structure with the local addiction authority here in the county. But we have support of both Maggie Thomas and Dr. Ciatola around our intentions, and that's been a really nice relationship to work on over the past year. So there'll be some new initiatives that are coming out that are regional in nature that we're really excited about. Let's see. We have a lot of initiatives going on related to our response to making sure that we're addressing our cultural and linguistic needs of the community. So we are actually bringing together providers that are interested in prioritizing how we look at addressing systematic racism in our delivery of behavioral health care services. So we will be initiating a work group for our provider network starting at the end of this month to look at how we can perhaps make sure we're doing some, more intentional work around how our services are meeting the whole community, making sure that we're not, not addressing our underserved populations. So that's a major priority that we're focusing on right now. I'm going to let Audra talk about a couple of the points here, but I do want to mention one county-specific activity that we've been working on is since, I guess about a year ago, January, we have contracted with a group called the Oxford House Group, and they are a recovery house provider. And we have provided them funding through the state opioid response grant to bring up 1 to 3 recovery houses in the county.
In Queen Anne's County?
In Queen Anne's County.
Okay.
Currently, you have no recovery houses formally sitting in the county, and that's something that we've identified as a gap in what is available here for Queen Anne's County residents. And we have solicited additional funds through the next 2-year round of that grant to continue to support the Oxford House model coming into the county and being financially sustained for at least the next couple years by grant dollars, and then have the ability to move into the fee-for-service structure. So that's something that I'm hopeful within the next quarter that we could at least see one house open, and maybe next year when we're back for our annual presentation with you all, I would like to see us actually fulfill the deliverables of that activity.
So how is that even going to, I'm just trying, how's that even possible? Do you have to have somebody that's going to run the facility? Mm-hmm. So you find the facility, you find someone to run it?
The vendor, the Oxford House Group is actually an international recovery house model group.
Okay.
So they were founded out of a house out of Silver Spring, probably in the late 70s.
Okay.
And has grown nationally and internationally with their house model. So my understanding of that particular structure is that it's usually peer run. So individuals that have moved through a recovery house structure actually are trained and supported to become house managers if they continue to reside and stay in the Oxford House structure. So the gentleman who is responsible for all of the Maryland-based Oxford House actually, I think, has been working in that system for close to 10 years and started out actually as a client in one of their houses. So we've been working directly with him to look at Queen Anne's County and locations and so forth. He has not identified those yet, but I would be happy to follow up when we know for sure when we have the first house location identified, just to keep you all informed.
Absolutely, because the Drug Free Coalition is very interested in that information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They know what we're up to.
Absolutely.
We're trying to, we went after the dollars, and that's part of the battle. But then, of course, establishing the foundation and bringing up the model in the county is where we've spent most of our work over the last probably 15 months with that group, trying to make that come to life. So we have continued to expand our crisis services around folks facing the opioid crisis. And I know when we met last year, I spoke a lot about the crisis bed activity that we've supported up at the AF Whitsitt Center in Kent County. That continues to be a resource that's very utilized by all of the Midshore counties, Queen Anne's as well. So, we're grateful to have that service. Unfortunately, it did have to go offline for give or take a couple of months during COVID, but they are now back serving individuals that are in need of crisis bed access for their opioid misuse. So we're pleased about that. We, like I mentioned, we're very active working directly with your leadership here for the local addiction authority. And we've been even more involved, of course, in being a part of participating in all of the COVID-19 response. In the beginning, especially, I know now it's mostly the EOC that's meeting, but we've certainly responded and been a participant in the county's response to ensuring that access to services for behavioral health needs have been sustained, and we've been reporting in on that routinely. We've also initiated some new dollars that will be available to individuals facing eviction and so forth, because we have the continuum of care, which is our homeless services, the funding by way of the housing and urban development, as well as Maryland's Department of Housing and Community Development funds run through our office. So we have a lot of available funds that already serve the county and are available for folks now as a response to the COVID-19 with emergency dollars for, for eviction prevention and so forth. So those are new funds that have come to our office by way of the pandemic. And I think lastly, one of the things that we've recently done is just in response to making sure that we're keeping the lines of communication open with our provider network, is we're actually meeting with all 9 counties of the Eastern Shore every other week to brief providers on any of the developments related to regulations or allowances or changes in the system as a result to the pandemic. And that is something that has been widely attended and certainly a valuable resource to our community, and making sure that we're staying at the forefront of the information to keep our providers' doors open and to make sure that the clients are having continued access to services. I'm going to let Audra talk about some of the specific highlights for the county. We've given you a lot of information in terms of data as well as our funding, and we welcome questions at the end about that, but I like to leave that up to you if you need some more clarity.
Sure. So some of our county-specific highlights, we were awarded the Healthy Transitions Grant, and we have contracted with Crossroads Community, and so what that grant encompasses is for transition-age youth from age 16 to 25, for additional services for housing, employment, life skills, education. So many of our transition-age youth are struggling, even more so today in our COVID, or in the midst of our COVID world, with being able to make those life choices. And this is a really exciting grant that Crossroads is working with us for. Another one of our highlights would be our Handle with Care through Queen Anne's County Public Schools. That Handle with Care model is a statewide trauma-informed response to child maltreatment and children's exposure to violence. And so what happens is if a family has an event or situation at their home, the police can contact the school and just say, handle this child with care. So especially as we're coming back into the school and the next, we know that there's a lot of situations that we may not be aware of that have been happening. We know that our numbers of referrals to social services have been down, and so we're anticipating that the numbers of Handle with Care referrals are going to go up even more. We serve on multiple committees in Queen Anne's County, including the Queen Anne's County Safety Net Committee, the LDAC, Local Drug and Alcohol Council, Queen Anne's Goes Purple, Shore Regional Health Opioid Task Force, of course the EOC calls, the NAMI for Kent and Queen Anne's County, and I also serve on the local care team. And Katie has been the treasurer for the local management board since July of last year. I think that's pretty much some of the highlights.
Yeah, and just so you know, some numbers, just to make sense of some of the data that was provided. In fiscal year 19 in Queen Anne's County, 1,489 individuals were served in the public behavioral health system, so Medicaid reimbursed mental health services. So almost 1,500 residents in the county were served in that capacity, and then 886 residents were served for substance use treatment services here in the county.
Question.
Yes.
One of the topics, one of the hot topics when it comes to what's going on with law enforcement, coast to coast with stop funding law enforcement and
sure.
I think one of the important things and part of the disconnect that's taking place is the proper training of
Right.
behavioral health to law enforcement officers. So I guess my question to you, are we working collaboratively with our sheriff's office?
Yes.
Or is this training once they've been hired with us, or is it training that's done at an academy?
So the crisis intervention training that we monitor the grant for, which is also another service provided by Affiliated Sante Group, which is our crisis service response provider. We actually had a meeting this afternoon with them because of some of the challenges in making sure those trainings are still happening, but the allowances around them being done virtually as a result of COVID. So we finally got the blessing for that. But yes, right now, traditionally, that training is happening after hire. That's not something that has yet to be instituted as part of the training academy that the officers move through. So typically, it would be post engagement with whatever department they're hired onto. But we have, I know Queen Anne's County has been a priority to get more officers trained. And Brandy James is actually our point of contact as our crisis intervention team coordinator for the region. She serves primarily the 5 counties, but also does some support work for Cecil County as well. They have a trainer up there. But those dollars, we monitor that activity to make sure it's actually happening annually. And we've done far exceeded the number of trainings than we're required to do. So there is that availability, and I'm happy that we can be offering it now virtually, because there was concerns there for a little while that wouldn't be an allowable training delivery, but it doesn't look like the virtual world's going anywhere anytime soon.
Right.
So we have to continue to do the work and have officers trained. But I will say, even learning today on our conversation this afternoon, there's been some resistance around, yes, the new changes with how some police departments in some jurisdictions are receiving them. Not necessarily here, but we had some conversations with our Cecil County partners. There's been some challenges in the county up there, unfortunately. So really having to do some reorienting to the importance of how police can be a sensitive and part of the team, part of that behavioral health response team, trying to re-educate community members that, look, this training exists. There's a large percentage of it going on in your departments that are serving your county. And it's important to understand that we have folks that are serving that are very well equipped to respond. But one of the complementary things is also making sure that police know how to contact mobile crisis. They are always available to be sort of a dual response. And we've really nurtured that and encouraged that. So with our mobile crisis teams a year ago going 24/7, we've actually required that from midnight to 8 a.m., if they are called to respond to a behavioral health crisis, that the police do sort of a dual responding because of the after hours nature of the activity, just to make sure everybody's safe. So that relationship's there, and I'm very happy with Brandy James. She's been in the position almost 5 years, and she's really developed some nice relationships with.
To me, it just seems that's an important component these days of law enforcement, that they get into situations and the ability to recognize perhaps a behavioral health issue with who they're dealing with,
Sure.
and a clear understanding, and then that changes processes on how they handle a particular situation. So I guess my question was, our sheriff's office is working with your organization to help with that training.
They're working directly with Brandy. I mean, her role is to maintain that outreach and that connection and that relationship. But we also have a forensic mental health work group where we've engaged a lot of law enforcement leadership. And of course, we're complemented with being able to see those folks at our local drug and alcohol abuse council. So there's a knowledge that it's available, and I know Brandy actually sits on each of the local drug and alcohol abuse councils and has a good relationship with each law enforcement leadership.
And I think it would be important. I mean, we're not a large county, so
Right.
I'm sure that the law enforcement officers in our county know who these folks are.
Oh, yeah.
Recognize names and addresses and things, so they know when they're responding to a call there, they know ahead of time what they're dealing with. At least that's what I would hope.
Sure.
Well, and we've had a couple of situations this year that we've also supported some complex care planning for individuals coming out of the state hospital that are residents in the county, and making sure that before that person returns to living in the county, that law enforcement is aware of some of the complexities or needs of that person. So in the event that there were a phone call, they might say, I'm aware that this person may have some extra needs. It might be good for me to engage, an officer that is CIT trained if I'm not in responding.
You said what?
Crisis intervention team. So
Okay.
that it's an actual internationally recognized training.
CIT training. Okay.
So we try to anticipate situations as well, and making sure that you have your supportive entities in the county aware if there's perhaps someone that might be more vulnerable coming back to the community, that that we're supporting their needs as well as folks that could be supporting them in a crisis. So we don't want that to happen on the back end if we can help it.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Okay then. Ready?
Ready?
Turn?
No, Audra, you
It's
stepped
my
out.
turn.
You had stepped out for a minute, and Audra.
Oh, she already went through, okay, she already did her stats?
That's right.
Okay, all right.
Was there a
I
freeze?
apologize.
That's okay. Rewind the tape.
Nope, we're just ready for questions if there's any
Yeah,
questions.
any questions, or, of course, our hope is that you will continue to support us to serve in the core service.
But we did the agreement in May. We did do that.
Haven't done the agreement. No, I sent the agreement with the paperwork, the letter.
I just checked, it was not in the paperwork.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we don't have it.
Oh, that's bizarre, because it was included in all the attachments. I had sent.
I just checked again, it wasn't.
You might have gone to Caroline County since.
No, it wasn't.
Ouch.
Touche, it was not the Caroline County one. But I could resend that to you. I think Rosalind in our office had forwarded all the documents.
I just went back and checked, it was not included.
Oh, okay. Well, we will send that over.
And I can approve next meeting, that'll be okay.
That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely, excellent.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
No problem. No, we want to make sure we get it done. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. So does anybody else have any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Yes,
Very much, thank you.
and we'll get that taken care of at our next
Yeah,
meeting.
I'm sorry. I will have her send that to you. Okay.
All right, Commissioners, that brings us to press and public comments, Part 2, but I don't see anybody out there in
So
the...
we're going to just skip right by that.
So we are,
The computer, there is no movement.
Okay, then, very good. So we'll go right around to the
Round table.
Commissioners' round table. The Catch a Plane Jack, you're up first.
All right, so first, I guess, since our last meeting, we had a little thunderstorm come through. Obviously wreaked some havoc and on our poor sewer system up there in Kent Island, and I just want to thank all the guys that worked up there in the sewer district and what they did and the hours they worked to try to get things back on as quickly as possible. It was a miserable situation, but unfortunately, it's a vacuum system, and with that much water infiltration, it's very hard for the plant to keep up, and that's, it's just the nature of the beast, and it's always been that way, but I give them, I know they were working around the clock to get people restored, so I want to thank all of them. Secondly, some good news today actually started yesterday, which I don't know that it got a lot of fanfare, but our 4-H kids are out showing their animals. So even though we're not all getting together like we would normally be doing this week at the 4-H park, at least the kids are out there and they're getting to show off all the stuff they worked on this year. And Todd is going to get out the live auction for them to be able to sell their beef and pigs, I believe, is Friday at some point. So we're going to try to get a press release out to let everybody participate in that, because that's always a pretty big deal over there, and that's how the kids make their money going into next year for their animals and stuff like that. So lastly, I just wanted to quickly because bi-monthly I try to do Kerwin, but schools have been on hold, but I'd still rather bring it up to date to where we are now. Obviously, most people know that it did pass the legislature, the funding mechanism passed the legislature last year. The governor vetoed it as well as the school construction bill for obvious budgetary reasons. So right now, Kerwin sits in limbo. It cannot be put back on until the legislature reconvenes, which they have, that I've heard, they have no, that's not going to happen until next year at this point. So
So the veto stands.
so, right. So just to kind of, I mean, refresh everybody's memory. So Kerwin, basically the way it stands now, the legislation was passed 2 years ago. There was an initial funding mechanism, ARM, put in place, which a lot of people called Kerwin Light, which covered the first 2 years of Kerwin, which we are now, obviously we just budgeted what is the equivalent of the second year. So more or less as we move into next year's budgeting process starting in November, and this kind of also spins up for the Board of Ed to look at too, you know, we kind of start in November, but the legislature's not going back to January. I'm assuming that they're going to take this up as an immediate priority to figure out what they're going to do. I don't want to speculate on where it's going to go, but I got to believe with the budget crisis where it's at, I don't believe the state is going to be able to come up with their share of what they were going to for Kerwin. And honestly, that was one of the biggest reasons when I sat there and voted against the funding mechanism. And when I raised that question, I said, look, I'm not so much worried about what the counties can do and how they can meet some of these obligations. My worry is that the state won't meet their obligations, and history has shown us when the state can't meet their obligations, don't have the money to meet their obligations, they typically push it down to the counties. We've had those experiences in the last 10 years to the tune of what is the equivalent of about $9.5–10 million in the county budget between highway user revenues, teacher pensions, and things like that. So, like I said, right now, I think the key component and what our teachers may want to think about, and again, this was a red flag that was raised in a lot of the conversations, is the additional funding that has come into teachers' salaries in the last 2 years will basically, without a new plan or a new funding mechanism, will more or less expire because what is funding them now will not be there next year. The additional close to $800,000 that's been jolted in that's gone to the teacher's salary. So again, there's a lot more questions, I think, than answers on it now, but everybody's got to remember the policy is in place. The standards are in place. The funding mechanism is not in place. And a $4 billion price tag, that's a pretty scary proposition that the funding is still in question. So that's all I got.
Very good. Mr. Wilson.
Good gracious. Well, I note that our infection rate is more migrated uphill again, making us, I think, at this point, unfortunately, second in the state. And anytime we get that kind of a distinction, I suspect it very likely is the result of a small testing base rather than a high infection rate. But I think in the next 2-week period, we're going to get Doc to come in, and because it's not a distinction that I want us to have.
Right.
Sure. I think that we need to clarify that, and I don't want the public to think we're a highly infected area. In fact, our average citizen is, I think, amongst the lowest in the state. But
I agree. I agree. It's just a number.
I want that number straightened out, if it isn't accurate. That's it.
Philippe?
3 follows 2.
Absolutely.
So I just have one thing. I want to also show my appreciation and thank county staff for their response during the storm, but really more specifically after the storm. I recently purchased a bike from the Bike Doctor and have hit the trails that we have here in the county. And I have to tell you, I rode 2 days after the storm, and the trails were all clear. Everything, the brush and everything was cut away, and people were back out on those trails as if Mother Nature hadn't done anything. So kudos to, I guess, Parks and Recs, clearing that trail, and that's a lot of trail. And as you ride or you walk down that trail, you can see the carnage that was pushed out of the way and a lot of the standing water because of the amount of rain we got. So kudos to Parks and Recs for clearing those trails.
Did it?
That's it.
All righty.
All right, well,
Counselor?
Thank you to Commissioner Dumanel for shopping local when you got your bike.
That was kind of a cheesy plug. Bike doctor.
I also want to commend the staff of the entire county on responding to the storm. And also say thank you to the utility workers that come in here to try to get the power back up. I mean, there was a lot of wind, a lot of that was down, and we can't, forget them working around the clock as well. I know some people were frustrated that maybe their power was out for 10 hours or longer, and I totally understand that frustration, but those utility workers were out there working hard, and let's not, sort of another one of the unsung heroes. Let's not forget them. I want to wish a happy birthday to my grandfather, John Nutter. He is 95 years old today. And probably irritated that he's still alive at 95 because that's just his personality. But happy birthday to Grampy then. And then I want to touch on I can't let this go by without facing it. There's a discussion that's been going on in the community on race. And obviously, racism is a terrible thing. It's terrible for the person who is on the receiving end for it, and it also impedes a community's ability to flourish. So it's something that I know citizens have been having discussions about. I would encourage them to listen to when Commissioner Moran was reading about the pillar of respect earlier, and that in having these conversations, remember the pillar of respect when you're in engaging with community members that have different views than you, that you're listening to them. We've talked in past meetings about, there's a lot of people talking at each other instead of talking with each other. And I think that in this community, we all have a lot more in common than we have different. And when we focus on those things that we have in common, we're able to then have respectful conversations about things that we may not agree on. And you may persuade somebody if you have a respectful conversation. So I would encourage people to engage in those respectful conversations. Everybody has different life experiences, different challenges and struggles that they approach a conversation from. And with an approach of understanding, I think we can see more fruitful conversations that would emerge from that. My sense on that.
Good?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, I'd just like to, touch base on today. Jack and I met, as we do at the beginning of every month, with Dr. Kane and some of the board members from the Board of Ed, just to go over what's going on in the school system, what can we do for them, what can they do for us, and just general questions. And, as everybody knows, we're starting this year off virtual, and we're going to stay virtual till things get better. But virtual doesn't mean no classroom instruction at all, which was good news today to find out that, they're bringing up to 15 teacher included and students, up to 15 in a classroom setting for those that need face-to-face instructions that may be struggling. And so kudos to our teachers and to our Board of Ed for approving that and getting that done. And hopefully that'll help so people don't fall and lag behind, because that's one of the concerns that we all have with how long this goes on, where the virtual learning is the only choice. And it sounds like our Board of Ed is right out there trying to improve on that situation. So kudos to them. The other thing I'd like to talk about is, Mr. Wilson and the senior statesman and I had our first meeting with the Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group. And it's going to be interesting. I don't know how much we're going to have as far as teeth are concerned, but we do now. There is an open dialogue with what's going on. For instance, the steel plates on the bridge is a major hassle. They're 1 inch thick. You have to span the thickness is there to span the distance and the weight for the control joints that they're redoing below them that have to cure for 28 days before they move them on to the next joint. It's a 2-year project. They'll run all the way through probably November. When it gets cold, they'll stop. They'll start next March, depending on the weather. But next fall, they'll be done with all the joints on the westbound bridge. So it's not going away. It's an inconvenience, but it needs to get done. Also, the railings. It was interesting because we've been hearing for 2 years now how they're replacing and working on all the railings on the westbound bridge. Well, there's 200 I'm going to be wrong here. I think there's 206 or 236 posts that has to be replaced. To date, they've replaced 6. So, they've got a long way to go there. The painting on the westbound bridge looks like it's coming to a completion. They're removing all the scaffolding on there, so that's good news. And the eastbound redecking is 2 years away. It's 2 years away from happening, but it sounds like it's going to be all precast, made somewhere else, brought in, cut the sections out, and replace them every evening. So that hopefully will not impede traffic too much. For all the construction that's going on along Route 50, right now it's going on mostly westbound. On Kent Island is a new gate system, and we did post that to our website, didn't we?
I believe so, yeah. If not,
It's a new gate system so that we can get rid of all these cones that are strewn all about Queen Anne's County and Anne Arundel County. It helps, control the traffic. As far as the traffic's concerned, the only silver lining to COVID is that even though we're not seeing it, the backups aren't as, well, we are seeing it, but the backups aren't as intense and as the duration as long as they were last year and the amount of the backups. So that's the blessing for COVID. So the more that they can get done now on these bridges so that when that traffic, God willing, there's a vaccine and things return to normalcy next year, these things will be out of the way. So there's a long way to go. Queen Anne's County sent a long list of requests and or suggestions to the state, and we've received nothing back so far. And we are doing our due diligence. We are being polite and respectful of the state, but hopefully, if we'll give them a little bit longer, and then we'll see what happens. So
It's killing, isn't it?
yeah, well, no, I'm good.
Turned over a new leaf, have you?
I'm good right now. I'm good.
Jim.
Woosah, okay.
I noticed that on the plates, they put the orange.
That was
bump-ups
in the request that we made.
Can they do it on the back end? Because the drop,
Well, what they
that's,
need to
that's
do-
literally where you get, to me, that's where you get the big hit, is not so much
Well,
when you're going
Todd's
up, it's when you're coming
Todd's
down.
gonna draft a letter for us, to the state about those steel plates. They need to have, personally, I think on the leading edge and the backside edge, they need to be 2 feet longer, and they need to
Right.
taper from the 1 inch, 1.25 inches, whatever it is, down to nothing.
Right.
Because anybody that drives over the bridge sees everybody slows down
Yeah.
to go over them.
Right.
And that's causing a lot of these backups eastbound and westbound. So I think that, if it's a 2-year project and there's only 3 of these plates, and again, on the Bragg meeting I asked, it's a long bridge. If you're gonna disrupt the traffic, let's do 6 at a time. Let's do 7 at a time. I'd rather go through this pain and be done by Thanksgiving, just like they did with the redecking, than have to deal with this next year when possibly things could be much better and much greater backups. So, to me, asking, and I asked on the phone conversation, why can't we do more, and didn't get a response. But I still think we should ask for enlarged plates so that it's not as drastic and people can continue up at least at 40 miles an hour, because honest to God, they're slowing down to 15 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy, and it's just...
It's like a traffic control device in a community street. you
Right,
know?
yeah. In the morning, nobody slows down. The commuters don't slow down. They hit that thing full bore. They just are holding on to their coffee cup when they do it. They're not leaving that on the dash. So Steve, yeah.
Yeah, well, right during the telephone conversation we had, I wanted to say and intrude into it, but we've been muted out of existence,
Yeah.
which the public doesn't know, but the commission was turned off, so
Right.
certainly.
And that'll be rectified at our next meeting, which
So what I
we won't give
did
them
was
access.
to, even then, during the meeting, draft a note to Pines saying if instead of having a transition that was a wedge about this wide.
Right, 4 inches.
It needed to be a foot wide and
Right.
described the whole thing. Steve Cahoon drew these and we sent them in, and Pines gave a response which didn't really answer that question. But plainly, if you made a foot wide transition.
Absolutely.
It all depends on the speed. At 3 miles an hour, it's not a speed bump.
Right.
At 100, you'd go airborne.
Right.
But it's rough. And our patients going over, you got to ride an ambulance someday and see what it's like. It's like lying in the bed of a pickup truck. If you had a broken bone, you'd scream.
I'm hoping not to have the ambulance.
I've ridden in the back of a pickup going to the emergency room.
I have to tell you, riding in the back of one of those heading to Easton, there are some sections of Route 50 that'll, if you're a patient riding in the back, Yeah, you'll actually leave your,
I went airborne.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're not supposed to fly in an
Yep.
ambulance.
It's like, can we go back and get my
Anyway,
tea?
we wrote them about that. We didn't really get a great response.
Well, we're gonna write as a commission, that same letter, and we'll give them due time.
Yeah.
And then we'll
But
release them the hammer. That's right.
let me point out two more things.
Uh-huh.
They have to take the plates up every night.
Not every night, only till they report that section, and then they leave it there for 4 weeks.
Right, but you wouldn't have to move these because they're not over the space, you see what I mean? So you could leave those transitions.
Oh, correct, right.
Yeah. And
If
the
they're
other-
separate pieces, yeah.
And, yeah, well, they should be. And the second thing is they're gonna use those almost same plates on the eastbound. We heard about that at one point. So these things would have the same use there. So it's worth doing.
Right. Some pig iron that costs about $1,000 versus the hundreds of millions of dollars being spent up there. Anyways, okay, so that's all I have for right now, so I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.